as myself. I learn something new about Sikhism every day. It just makes me feel more educated about my own faith. Sikhism, to start off, Sikhism is about 500 years old, a little bit more than that, officially making it one of the world's youngest religions. It's a monotheistic faith, which means one God. And it originated in northwest India, the state of Punjab, which is actually split between Pakistan and India. So one half of Punjab was actually in Pakistan, and one half is in India. And when they were united, that's where Sikhism was actually established and formed. There was about 20 to 25 million adherents or followers of Sikhism in the world. When you put that in perspective, it's actually not that much, considering we're up at what, 7 billion now in the world?
Sit down.
That was actually done on purpose. The first word of the second point, Sikhs seek to make religion more of a uniting factor, more than a division. What happened is during this time where Sikhism was actually being established was that there were actually lots of fights, a lot of turmoil going on between Hindus and Muslims. Muslims were the invading force, Hindus were the natives. They were being subjected to a lot of bad things, where they're treated as second-class citizens in their own nation. And Sikhism kind of was the force that said enough is enough. I don't know why you guys are fighting over religion. Your faith is just as good as his faith. You guys should compromise and be more united. You guys have an awful lot in common. Let's focus on the similarities rather than the differences of your two religions. One of the basic principles of Sikhism is that all people are treated equally, considered to be equal, including females. Now, when Sikhism was actually being preached for like the first time in India, that was around the 1500s. So that was actually pretty revolutionary at that time, considering when you put into perspective that around the late 1700s, we were establishing our own Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence saying all men are created equal. Well, 200 years before that, Sikhism had already established that even women were created equally. Brahmin and Sudra, which is the next point. Within the Indian caste system, there are many levels of where you stand in society. The Brahmins would mean that you are actually the highest, the richest. And Shudra would mean you're like the untouchable. Nobody would even want to talk to you or look at you or even associate with you. So Sikhism is saying it doesn't matter, male, female, Brahmin, or Shudra. You are equal in the eyes of one. You're all created from the same source anyway. Hindu and Muslim, same thing. It doesn't matter what your faith is. You're all considered equal, despite religion, gender, any kind of orientation. United as brothers and sisters in the devotion of one God is what the Sikhs believe. A common source, a common father or mother, that all people are actually towards one goal. This is actually a quote from the founder of Sikhism. His name was Guru Nanak. He said, "There is no Muslim, there is no Hindu. All are equal human beings because they are the children of the same Father, God." So his thoughts were pretty revolutionary. A little bit of background about the founder. He was born into a wealthy Hindu family. So he basically had everything to lose by saying such a thing because, you know, being of a family of wealth and, you know, you don't want to give that up by saying, oh, I think even the untouchable should be able to come over and have dinner with us. That's a little radical for that time period.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
I was just going to say, so if we had to, just based on a little bit of information we've got already, what would you say is a very large theme that runs throughout Sikhism, that it was based on? Kyle?
Religion?
Yes, it is a religion. It's based off of, it has pieces of other religions. It has its strong beliefs in one God. And is that only the God of Sikhism? Sammy?
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say something else.
Go ahead, talk to me.
Well, I was going to say that everyone is treated equally.
Yes, everyone's treated equally because we're all under one God. We're all under the same God. So everyone's equal. It doesn't matter what religion you are, whether you're female, male, if you're upper class, lower class, upper caste, lower caste. Equality is a huge theme here in Sikhism. Thank you, Mr.
This is a painting of what Guru Nanak, or the name of the founder of Sikhism, was believed to look like. This is a very common painting found in almost every Sikh's home. And he was born in the 15th century, around 1469. And so for someone to have these radical revolutionary thoughts that women should be equal to men, at a time where villages were very common. There were no cities. It was just village life. So you have a lot of what we would consider backwards thinking. So that was like, what? What are you talking about? That seems a little too far-fetched. You want women to be equal? You want people of lower caste to be equal? What are you talking about? He was born as a Hindu, but he had rejected some of the teachings, which basically told him from the caste system that, hey, I'm entitled to this, this, and that, and just because my friend might be of a lower caste, they shouldn't get anything that I have, just because they were born, unfortunately, in a lower caste. So he resented such things as a caste system. He was influenced by two movements, Bhakti and Sant, which were basically schools of thoughts which influenced his thinking and his teachings, which later on formulated to be Sikhism. Turns out when he spread his ideas that he actually had a lot of people buy into his beliefs, Hindus and Muslims. Well, like, that's a great idea. I don't know why we're so divided. What else do you have to say? I'd like to find out, you know, like, so he actually had quite a following of both Hindus and Muslims. He had huge congregations of people of both faiths, you know, just in awe of his thoughts and what society should be rather than what it was. He had basically written a lot of poetry. That poetry had become in singing form. Basically what they did is Guru Nanak and his followers would sing some of the things that he had written about how society, kings are butchers, and how humans, we should all unite instead of being fragmented as Hindu or label or Muslim or whatever label society has for us. So the way he would sing devotional songs, they called it kirtan, which is in the word in, you know, the language I speak for that. It's kind of like how you have minstrels, like singing religious themes or just singing just for the heck of it. Guru Nanak and his following sang like minstrels, except it was called kirtan. His own disciples, he labeled them Sikhs, which is the name of the religion that I follow. The word Sikh comes from Sanskrit. The word means discipline or a student or disciple. So if I identify myself as a Sikh, I'm not only saying that that's my religion, but that's also my role in life. That's my profession, that's what I do. I'm a student, and basically the process of learning is never ending. Basically he had come to his realization when he was about 25, maybe 30 years old, about midway, and then he basically said that, you know, well, there's that realization of one God. So how about we take what the Hindus call God and what the Muslims call God and just call it one source. So he called it Waheguru. Guru is a word in Sanskrit. The first part, gu, means light. Ru means in the darkness. So that could be loosely translated as an enlightened spiritual teacher in time of darkness. So he was given that title of Guru. And the Sikhs call God Waheguru, the greatest spiritual teacher among all, which is actually a united title between what Hindus call God, Rama, Krishna, and what Muslims will call God, Allah. Basically, Sikhs recognize that it's the same force. So why is this all there, you know, why are all these barriers exist? So Waheguru is just another adjective to describe God.
And the symbol you drew on the board.
Oh yeah.
The top one.
My artwork. The top one or the bottom one?
Top one first.
Say this one for last. Okay. The top one is what is called Ek Onkar. The first one, the one that looks like a 9 with a little slant, it's actually 1, the number 1 in Hindi. And this one right here, the one that kind of looks like a 3 and then kind of does its own thing, it represents God, Onkar. What they did is, since the word is Onkar, they had actually derived the first part of that word, Om, from Hinduism. Om, according to Hinduism, is everything in the universe. The vibration, the sounds, everything in the universe is Om. God is Om. We are all Om. So the Sikhs, they had taken an adaptation of this and decided to make it one God, a uniting factor between Hindus and Muslims, to believe in one common goal. So more about the founder's teachings. His name was Guru Nanak, as I said before. He preached a unifying message that over that pretty much breached religious differences, something that Hindus and Muslims could both agree to, that, hey, he's got a good point. Even in my respected scriptures, it says this. Well, even in their scriptures, it says this. Then I don't know why we have all these differences. Uniting both Hindus and Muslims and towards a common devotion to one God. Guru Nanak recognized that behind all human names are different forms of God. Like I said before, within Hinduism, there are many ways of describing God. There's Rama, Krishna, and then within Islam, they call God Allah. So what I'll touch upon later is a holy book of the Sikhs, where they describe God with all these names, but they're using them as adjectives to describe one God, not as different gods, but to describe God from different viewpoints. So another way Sikhs call God instead of Waheguru, as another adjective among the different names, is Satnam, which means the true name among us all. He rejected meaningless rituals such as, for example, if I was born into a high-end Hindu family and I had to wear something just because it was tradition. And I couldn't challenge it, it's just the way it was. My parents did it, grandparents did it, it's just the way it was, I couldn't question it. Well, he found out that something that he wore, which was a sacred thread in Hinduism back then in the day, it pretty much reinforced the caste system that, hey, he was the upper class. And he had a lot of friends that were among different castes. So he didn't believe in that. He didn't feel that he was superior to anybody else. He was equal to anybody else, including his friends from a lower caste, lower class. So he had, he just snapped that thread off and he was like, no, I don't believe in it. So anything that we do and we do not understand, and he understood the value of it. Is like, these aren't in sync with my values. I don't like it. This is just meaningless. This is just ritualistic. Well, when I understand it, I realize what it's really for. As I said before, the Sikhs believe in one God. They call Waheguru many names, Satnam, Waheguru. Equality among all human beings, rejecting caste distinctions. I had made this point in the previous class that, if you were to use your own last name, that might decipher where you stood in society. For example, if my last name was Smith, I know, look at me, yeah, get real. It can't be happening. But if my last name supposed was Smith, somewhere in the past, you might find out that some member of my family could have been a blacksmith. With that occupation, you find out where I stood. What is the income of my family? Where did they stand in society? Last names have this awesome amount of information, which is why, what I'll explain later on, Sikhism, in the name of equality, rejects any sign of caste distinction, which includes last names. Other beliefs of Sikhism, they believe in something similar to Hinduism and Buddhism, which is the principle of karma and reincarnation. Can anyone tell me what karma is?
Like when you do something bad, it comes back.
And what if you do?
Good.
Okay, if you do something bad, it comes back. What if you do something good?
Yeah, she comes back.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. She said it correctly. It goes both ways. If you do something bad, it comes back to get you. If you do something good, you will be rewarded in one way or another. Sometimes subtle, sometimes apparent. There's this belief of that, as well as reincarnation. Can anyone tell me what reincarnation is? Okay.
Now you come back as someone else.
Yeah. It's that principle that, through your deeds, when you're living as a human, through your deeds, what you do on earth, your deeds, how you interact with people, that is the judgment on what you might be in the next life. So if you did some pretty bad stuff, questionable stuff, you might come back, I don't know, I'm just saying this as an ant. I'm not the judge. You might come back as something that reflects your actions. And then if you do good deeds, you'll come back as someone who's actually favored within society.
Audrey's coming back as a cockroach.
I don't know Miss James is coming back as. Let's see. The next point. Sikhs reject asceticism, which is monastic life, such as if I wanted to get spirituality, I don't have to renounce anything. I don't have to give up my meager salary. I don't have to give up my domestic car. I don't have to give up anything that I have here, that I enjoy here in this society, in the United States, in order to find my spiritual state.
So one example like that they might know of
Yes.
extreme asceticism
Yeah.
would be like a nun.
Right.
A nun gives up worldly life, wears the habit, the outfit, and devotes their life to their God. That's an example of asceticism, giving everything up for your faith. And